And the worst part about it is, dude decided to use the Bible on this, and I'm not the biggest fan of people trying to use the Bible to justify some of these things. So, considering that he did bring up the whole Bible verse and, the whole he who finds a wife finds a good thing, I'll raise one and also make it seem as though whatever it is that she was complaining about is also perfectly okay in the Bible. And I'll even quote the verse. It is,
"The royal penis is clean, Your Highness."
welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man who likes his women the same exact way he likes his yogurt. He is also a man who definitely adds running his mouth to his cardio routine. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Danverby, and I am here to discuss lies. And for this particular episode, I would say that there are some men, or at least a man, that is lying to women, but also there are some women, mostly young ones, that have been getting lied to about something, and I really need to clear both of those things up, because both of them don't seem to be helping the dating market quite a bit for a lot of people. Might actually even be hurting them instead of helping them. But as they say, Delulu is a Solulu in some instances, and I do seek to break some of that Delulu. And hopefully by the end of the episode, you should have your Delulu broken at least to some degree. So I'm hoping that you listen all the way till the end. And should you like what it is that you're listening, should you not like it, should you have a different form of feedback, and should you have a particular topic and or guest that you would like discussed on the podcast, then the place to hit me up on is the DMs. The DMs are always open. The social media links are in the description, whether above, below, whichever app you're using, wherever the descriptions are, the social media links are there. And they rarely ever change, and I would be more than happy to check out your DMs and handle them accordingly. But all in all, I thank you so much for listening, and as always, I hope you listen all the way till the end. Now, before I can get into anything, first off, I know I probably should have started by mentioning this in the previous episode, but for those of you all that just recently joined, I normally do about 12 weeks of continuous shooting of like 2 episodes per week. But usually after that, I like to take some time off. Maybe about 2 or 3 weeks where I'm basically not really trying to create content per se, so that I can give myself some R&R, some time off, take a break from the internet and stuff like that. And I will usually, stop producing full episodes. But I don't like leaving my listeners without anything, so I usually have smaller, more compact, less edity episodes that I usually push out during that time. So for the period of time that I will be on break after this episode, I will be producing shorter, less edity content that doesn't have instrumentals or anything. It's usually just one topic, and I usually keep it short, and it's kind of just a little bit of content to keep you guys going up until I get back into producing the full episodes. So for those of y'all that would want me to discuss something, you can always suggest it. If I have some time over the break, I don't mind, doing a suggested topic or two, while I'm in break. But all in all, that is what is supposed to happen after this episode. So expect probably about 6 of those episodes to be shortened. But all in all, it is still going to be the same me that is discussing those topics, and I do still aim to discuss them in the same exact way as I've been discussing a lot of other topics on this podcast. But with all of that said, I can move from that now and get into the topics of today, of which, by the way, I know there's someone that saw episode 666 and they're like, oh my goodness, devilish number. And honestly, for the sake of just numbering, I just chose to put episode 666. So, numbering, I guess. But all that aside, I need to get down to business, and I want to kick things off with a man on the internet who is known for having a lot of discussions on relationships, who is referred to as Ace Metaphor. Now, Ace Metaphor, for those of y'all that don't know, is a speaker and podcaster who normally has this show online called Tonight's Conversation. Now, it's not a show that happens completely online. There's women and men that usually attend, and they have the live viewing and everything, and they have those discussions, and it's usually discussions on relationships. Now, recently, a clip of his from one of those episodes came out where a woman came and complained that apparently nowadays men are a lot softer and they want to be kept and they want to be chased and shit. And he responded in a particularly interesting way, which I want to get into, because while I don't have a problem with people having discussions on such, I do have a problem with men who can sometimes seem to basically try to appease the other side. But anyways, let me not get into it too much. I will give my thoughts once I have played the clip. So without further ado,
basically, I feel like men want to be treated like women a lot of times. They want to be taken on dates. They want to be called all the time. They don't want to be the man in a relationship.
They want to be earned. They want to be pursued.
Yes.
They want to be chased.
Yes.
I'm the prize.
Yes.
And the silly part about it is, y'all be doing it.
I don't.
You always talk about, I ain't chasing no man. That's the you do. Every time you get that man a chance and he don't deserve it. Every time you settle what you know you deserve out of a relationship for a man that isn't meeting your qualifications, every single time you allow a man to take you off the dating market, you have become unsingle to a single man. Here you are trying to prove your worth to a man that's blind to it. What good is it to be a good woman to a man that don't know what a good woman is? What I'm saying is, the Bible don't say, she who finds a husband finds a good thing. But some of y'all, it say, he who finds a wife. But some of y'all doing the seeking. Y'all doing the courting. You lead in dating, because here's the thing. When that man don't provide clarity, what you do? Begging for it. See me. Acknowledge me. Text me back. Instead of finding a man that so the reason why these men are doing it is because you are allowing it. Here's the thing. If you don't want a man that's uncommittal, don't date one. If you don't want a man that can't show up on a consistent basis, don't date one. If you don't want a man that acts like he's the princess, this man goes to the passenger seat in your car. And you constantly driving that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if that's not the man you want, don't date that man. Anybody else?
Okay. So I can probably say that the only part that I can fully agree with is the last statement that he was on, where he was like, if you don't want that, then don't date that kind of man. But besides that, damn, normally there's a term for this online. Whenever a man goes ahead and says stuff that is supposed to appease certain women like this, and usually the term is pandering. This man is pandering. Let me explain. This woman was complaining about how men want to be taken on dates, how men want to be treated out. You can say that that's men that basically want to be chased, but fam, like, even men want to be treated well. Like, even we deserve to be pampered every once in a while, don't you think? Like, this is one of the things that I find very annoying with quite a number of people whenever it comes to these discussions. They make it seem as though a man's role is basically just a struggle and give and give and give. Why shouldn't we receive as men? And this is something that I've asked myself multiple times, because there are times when I go ahead and I try and I go above and beyond, but at some point I'm like, why should I just be giving and I get nothing back? Should I not be treated well by someone? Should I not receive good treatment? If you do care about someone, should you not give as far as like pampering and good treatment is concerned? Because if you are dating someone, then that shouldn't be a problem. If anything, y'all should be treating each other out and, showing appreciation for each other. And that's what strengthens the bond that the two of you have. But making it seem as though men want to be treated this way and men want to be chased is pretty wrong. Actually, the way he kind of played it was he brought in one side, which is men wanting to be pampered, and he linked it with men wanting to basically be chased, and they're very non-committal. Those two things weren't actually joined together, and he basically tried to link the two of them together. Now, in my opinion, he was linking two things that can be mutually exclusive from one another. So he essentially made it seem as though you pampering or treating a guy out is basically you chasing a guy versus, you actually chasing a guy, which usually isn't the case. And the worst part about it is, dude decided to use the Bible on this, and I'm not the biggest fan of people trying to use the Bible to justify some of these things. So, considering that he did bring up the whole Bible verse and, you know, the whole he who finds a wife finds a good thing, I'll raise one and also make it seem as though whatever it is that she was complaining about is also perfectly okay in the Bible. And I'll even quote the verse. It is Isaiah 4:1, and it states, and I quote, "And in that day 7 women will put their hands on one man, saying, there will be no need for you to give us food or clothing, only let us go under your name so that our shame may be taken away." End quote. And just like that, I have used a Bible verse to justify the fact that men should be getting chased by 7 women, or at least by multiple women. Point that I'm trying to make here is, stop trying to use that shit. Like, this babe was complaining about men wanting to be treated out. Let men get treated out, you know. I don't see anything particularly wrong with it. I feel like that's completely exclusive of you having to chase a man and putting in a lot of effort. At the end of the day, if you want something, go after it. If it doesn't budge, then, you know, you can obviously switch away and go see someone else or go try and find something else. So whatever it is a dude was saying up until you get to the last bit, I just didn't think was particularly necessary or right. But then again, I could be wrong about this. Maybe he does have a point. But all in all, I am going to leave it at that and move it on to our main topic of this episode. And like I said earlier, this one's about the lies. But I feel like there are people that are lied to a lot. And while both genders do get lied to quite a bit, I feel like women get fed a lie a lot more of the time, and it's mostly through a couple of different fantasies. Now, I'll be very honest, I never really used to think too much about this up until I stumbled across a clip from the Hot Pursuit pod, which is usually done by Asian Boss Girl on IG, where they were asked the biggest lie young girls are told about love. And they had some things to say. Now, it is 2 ladies, but granted, one does most of the talking. But either way, I'm going to let the clip play, then I can give my thoughts on this, because I feel like there is quite a bit to say on this. Not too much, but, you know, just a little bit. But either way, let me let the clip play. So without further ado...
What's the biggest lie young girls believe about love?
We could go. Oh my gosh. Finally, these like fairy tales are kind of becoming demystified.
Don't get me wrong, like, do not accept a man that does not treat you the way that you should be treated. But like, he's working on himself and you are also working on yourself. So like, you have to be able to meet each other in your brokenness and like build from there. You are not a perfect little princess, I'm sorry to say. You know, like, none of us are. Like, the man is not a perfect little prince either. The cost of actually building a lifelong relationship is so taxing on both sides, even if you are both stellar human beings, because like, humans are messy, humans are broken. They think, why is it so hard? It shouldn't have to be this way. Understanding the ugliness that comes with your perfection, like the perfection that you think you're gonna have, is important. Like, it's important to build that into your expectation. But what I see a lot of young girls think, including girls that like haven't dated much at my age, are that like, I want this perfect man to show up and like, I deserve this, you know, and you deserve the world, but like, you need to work on yourself too.
Okay. This was a particularly interesting clip. Not because, you know, what she said was highly profound or anything, but the fact that it was a woman that was actually saying, y'all need to take accountability and accept that you aren't perfect. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not like, you know, women being told to take accountability or women being accountable is profoundly hard. It's just, even when you check the comments on this particular clip, there's a ton of guys busy saying, oh my goodness, women are taking account. A woman is taking accountability? Damn. Even they're surprised, because normally the problem is that, you know, babes are out here busy talking about their delulu lives and shit, and just spitting a bunch of shit that they wish they had, not necessarily what it is that they want or are getting or would want to get. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that women always say wrong shit or women always deluded. You know, there's a lot of women that do spit facts out here. It's just, oftentimes, whenever we're listening to podcasts and podcast clips, oftentimes I just don't get this level of accountability, which is something that I like. Now, these ladies do sound like they're in their 20s, more so early to mid. So I can say that everything that she said is particularly right. because one of the bigger problems that I have seen over the years is a lot of young girls, especially when they're getting into their 20s, believe that men should be ready-made from the jump. And they forget that there's a growth process in it whereby a guy has to learn and grow into the man that he probably should be or he would like to be over time. Now, the biggest error that ends up being made is oftentimes a lot of these young women will make comparisons to guys that are grown, guys that have basically taken the time to become better men, and they will use that as the same metric on young guys who are also around about that age, if not like 1 or 2 years older, maybe even 3 to 5. And say a 21-year-old girl is dating a 23-year-old guy, she's expecting the guy to have, made himself into the kind of man that like a 30-year-old guy has become. And the truth of it is, like, that guy's still growing, that guy is still trying to build themselves. Like, this guy can be the sweetest human being on the planet, or he can, not necessarily even be the greatest guy on the planet. But at the end of the day, he is growing, he is learning, and he is, still in the molding himself phase. And truth of it is, for a lot of women, once you accept that you are also growing and you are also changing, and you won't be the same person now as you are, 10 years from now or 10 years before now, you start to appreciate people a lot more. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should go and date people, based off of how much better they could be 10 years from now. Of course, you should date people based off of how they treat you now, but also don't expect a guy to be very, very mature, yet he's still quite young. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. Because something that I've noticed is that I found women who are, 22, 23, 24, 25 are expecting guys that are around about the same age as them, if not, like 26, 27, 28, to be able to behave and perform the way 35-year-old guys are behaving. And the truth of it is, there are some guys that are mature to that level, and, that maturity can come, at a different point in time due to certain factors in there. But the vast chunk of guys that are within that age bracket aren't really there yet. Even women who are 30 will complain about guys who are 30 and not being mature to the level that they'd want. And the truth of it is, a lot of that maturity on the women's side, I wouldn't even argue is actual maturity. It's basically just the clock ticking for the most part, and them expecting guys to be behaving the way their dads behave, forgetting that their fathers have basically been on the planet for like an extra 30 years by the time they're getting a lot of these young women. So if anything, like, I feel like guys should be cut some slack, and women should also accept that even they are growing, even they have fuck-ups, and even they aren't perfect. The moment they can accept that, I believe that is definitely something that can make it easier to date younger guys, or at least date guys that are more within the age range, as opposed to looking at them as immature for their age and then complaining a couple of years later because these guys have suddenly decided that they want to go for younger babes, which is something that you do see happen from time to time regardless of generation. But with that said, I was actually particularly interested in the question of what's the biggest lie that young girls, or should I say young women, have been taught about love. And when I thought about it, I know that yes, these women did answer the one biggest lie that they think is the case, of which, especially for today's day and age, accountability is a very, very big one. But I feel like there's others that are there that I'd probably want to mention, because sometimes we need to crush some of this delulu so that we can have better dating lives out here. So I found 3 very simple ones. I'd have gone with one, but I feel like the 3 kind of do hold a pretty high place. So I'm just gonna get into them real quick. So the very first lie that I would probably say a lot of young women are taught is that they deserve everything. And what I will tell you is, y'all don't deserve shit. Okay, not that you don't deserve shit, but you deserve what you get or what it is that you allow. Now, this isn't to say that, oh, you don't deserve anything or women deserve less or anything of that sort, but the whole idea of deserving comes from a certain level of entitlement. And if you want something, yes, if you feel like you deserve better, it's entirely up to you to go and chase better. But you can't be with someone who's giving you less, saying that you deserve better, and the guy isn't giving you that, and then you're like, oh, but I still deserve better, and you move to the next guy and get the same treatment, the next guy, the next guy, the next guy. If you want better, go and get a guy that you believe is giving you better. But at the end of the day, always remember that you don't get what it is that you think you deserve. You get what it is that you yourself choose to allow. Now, this is something that guys have basically known for a long time. And granted, even though, there are guys that do get mistreated out here and guys who go through toxic relationships, a lot of times those are the things that will basically bring us back to reality. The idea that you can talk about all the things that you deserve, but considering that as a guy, you're kind of taught from the jump that you have the power to make your own decisions, you basically will find most guys will pivot away from toxic situations a lot faster than women will, because they don't delude themselves of that fact. Then the second one that I will probably give a lot of women, which might annoy some people, is the rich man isn't going to pluck you from the challenges that you're experiencing in your life. I'm sorry. There's a high chance that that's not going to happen. For some of you, it might. Let's be quite honest. For some of you, it might. But for the most part, these rich guys, they're not really trying to date just about any babe. They're also trying to find a babe that's well within their value range. So, fine, yes, you can go and try to overvalue yourself, but at the end of the day, if you're not an attractive selection for rich guys, you're not an attractive selection for rich guys. And even then, the reason why I bring up this and I call it the Lulu is because there's a shit ton of babes that are basically giving it up to guys who have a lot of money with this idea. Okay, I don't know if it's an idea or anything, why it's like they go and they try to ride his dick the best and they try to show that they have great pussy and shit because they want to hang around dudes with money. For the most part, these guys are just gonna fuck you. Don't get me wrong, some guys do actually end up with some of these babes, but for the most part, these guys know very well you're offering them pussy for free, and guys are guys. It's not like they're gonna turn it down, not unless if they have a reason to turn it down. So these guys will continue to shag, and then they'll continue to move on, and then you find that the babe that they end up settling with, or the babe that they end up with, isn't anywhere near the realm of where you're at. So at the end of it, you just ended up giving pussy to a guy that won't even value it all that much. But then again, at the end of the day, the idea that a man with means is going to, pull you from the challenges of capitalism and the world right now is a pipe dream that most of y'all need to kill. It's probably easier and better for you to try and do it for yourself than expect a guy to do it, is all I'm trying to say. Now, with that said, let me move to the last Delulu thought that a lot of young girls are given, and this one might cut a little bit deep, but the whole statement of if he wanted to, he would, is probably one of the worst things that you could ever believe. And the reason I say this is because it is less about the man's inability to act and more about women's selective ability to act, or at least selective ability to do anything. And the reason I say this is because guys go above and beyond a lot of times, and there's also times when guys don't put in a lot of effort. Oftentimes, you could say that depending on how the guy values you, he might do one thing, he might do another, but it's not like men are supposed to be going above and beyond every single time of the day. There are extreme situations, but expecting this man to be pulling it off every single day is basically just taxing a man to hell. For the most part, that is very unreasonable, and it is something that I believe is just quite wrong for the most part. But flip the genders around a little bit, and you kind of start to see where the whole if he wanted to, he would comes from, because women are probably the biggest culprits of this on the planet. Women usually tend to exercise selective ability based on whichever guy that they're with. If they like a guy well enough, you will find that they will be willing to go above and beyond for dude all the fucking time. Whether the guy is giving the most, whether the guy isn't giving shit, babes will be going above and beyond for dude. But if a guy is there, he is putting in the work, he's doing everything that he can, but she still doesn't like him as much, that man will be taken through the ringer for eons before he gets a lick of whatever it is that the other guy would have been getting. And I've seen this shit a lot. This isn't even based off of, stuff like, how fast it is for a babe to give up sex or anything. This isn't even related to that. This is all of the other acts that are considered more intimate acts. Stuff like cooking and cleaning, stuff like, trying to do a lot more for your partner, stuff like trying to pamper your partner. Like, I know babes that will pamper their dudes, but if they're with a guy that they don't find to be that attractive or that they're not particularly that interested in, you find that they'll be like, oh no, I can't do that for a man. Oh, but trust me, of all the things that babes will say they can't do for a man, they meet a dude that they're super in love with and they will do all of those things. Real talk. Like, there's very, very little that they wouldn't do for a guy that they are super into. And with guys for the most part try to maintain a certain level. Yes, there are some extremes that they can go to for a babe that they like, but for the most part, guys usually try to maintain a certain level, save for a couple of nuanced cases where the differences can be quite stark. But all in all, what I am trying to say is the idea of if he wanted to, he would, is essentially an idea that, is trying to make it seem as though men will go to extremes for the people that they love. Truth of it is, men will go to extremes for a lot of people a lot of the time, and for us, there's a certain standard that we kind of have to hold ourselves to. Just even on a personal level, there's a certain standard that we hold ourselves on to. So the idea of selective ability based off of whether a guy wants to or not isn't really a reflection of guys. It's more for women than it is for men, at least as far as my observations are concerned. But with all of that said, when you kind of look at it, there are quite a lot of things that women get lied to out here. Hopefully, the more time goes on, the more we unravel some of these things and we show reality. Because at the end of the day, like, the Lulu is nice, don't get me wrong, and I'm all for it, but sometimes a hint of reality should kind of put back people in mode, because the Lulu has been driving a lot of people towards the wrong side of the dating market and has probably hurt a lot of people quite a bit. But to kind of conclude all of this, I just want to go ahead and say that yes, the Lulu is the Solulu to some things, but you can't Delulu your way through everything. The Lulu is okay, but having a hint of reality should at least tell you that there are some things that are Delulu and there are some things that are real. Understanding that difference is probably what might help you secure a partner a lot faster, if not help you a lot more in the dating market, as opposed to a lot of the things that the Lulu can do. Although, then again, I could be wrong about this, I could be chatting a bunch of shit. Either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG, it is at the Breaktime _podcast. On Facebook, it is at the Breaktime Podcast. On X, it is at Bagaka the D. And on Bluesky, it is at the breaktimepod.bsky.social. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.